Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So this week's build is a little bit different. I've actually already done my build and it's sitting on my workbench. And I had recorded an intro video already for this. And to be honest, I was kind of down in the dumps. I was just struggling. I don't know exactly where I want to go with this and kind of the robot builds and just personal projects and so when I filmed this, I was just like, I'm just going to paint this squirt gun and call it a day. But as I was painting it and working on it, I was thinking more and more about my viewers. And instead of like having a pity party of just like, oh, I don't know what to do, as I was making it, I was like, you know what, this is really cool for my viewers who maybe have wanted to build a prop, but they're nervous and they don't know exactly where to go or how to start. I thought this is actually a really cool starting point to make your first prop. So I hope this is helpful to you, that if you're thinking, I really want to do it, but I'm really nervous, don't be nervous. Just go buy a cheap prop squirt gun or something from Walmart or the Dollar Tree and just spray paint it. And maybe do a little bit of weathering and just try it. And I think once you get into prop building, you'll find it's pretty amazing and pretty awesome. So with no further ado, let's go through the process of how I built this amazing squirt gun. Yeah, let's do it. Alright, so here is the squirt gun that I got at Daiso. Now, this was a little bit more than I would normally want to spend. I think it was like $10 or $11, but when I saw the shape of it, I was like, this is kind of cool, and I thought, I can mask these areas pretty nice because there's some pretty nice grooves in there. And then when I was looking at it a little bit further, I was like, wait a minute, this thing is screwed together with Phillips, so I'll be able to just take this thing apart and spray all the parts individually. Now, I'm not really super concerned about saving the squirt gun part, so I think I might cut this off and build something else. And I don't know what I want to do with the barrel. I don't love that. It's kind of a little dorky. Maybe I'll do an extension or something. So here I'm just taking off the rest of the screws here. And then this thing just pulls right apart. And here's a fun little pro tip, just especially for new builders. If you're taking apart something with a lot of screws, get yourself these little containers. You can get them at the grocery store, Target, Walmart. They're great. They'll be a lifesaver for you. So here I am. I'm just taking apart the rest of the build. I'm not super concerned about saving the innards of this because it's just going to be a prop. And this is a great type of prop, especially if you're a first-time builder and you've never done this, because you can take all these components apart. This top here is a little gross from the molding, so I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup work on this. Again, if this is your first time and you're like, I don't want to do all that, don't worry about it, but this is just an extra little step. I took some glazing putty, kind of filled in some of the gaps. Once I got that all filled in, just taking some 400 grit sandpaper and doing some light sanding. Really no big deal. Now I'm going to cut off this little piece here. And I've got a drawer full of little washers, and this is a USB cable, bolts. I don't even know what this thing is, but I loved the construction of it. It was a big white nylon washer, that metal bolt, and then this other little washer kind of covers the top of it. That actually fit right through the end of the wire there. And if I glue this on and run it maybe into the body somewhere, could be kind of cool. And it eliminates that weird cap that you would fill the water in. So here I am. I'm just kind of gluing some areas. You notice I did sand those so the glue sticks a little bit better. When you're putting things together and they have really slick surfaces and it's just plastic, a lot of times it will not stick. So make sure to give that a little sand, and that'll make your life a little bit easier. So just finishing the construction of that. Get out my ream tool here. Again, one of my viewers sent this to me. Dave, thanks. I love this thing so much. I use it all the time. Running the wire through, and it is a nice little fit, so I don't even have to glue the wire part. I'll just glue the little construction piece that I made there.
So I'll just add a little bit of super glue on there. Put that down. I did use a little kicker just to help that super glue cure faster. Now I have sanded this whole thing down, so I'm going to take just a little bit of alcohol and wipe this down. That will make sure there's no dust or debris and the paint sticks really nice. I'm looking at this thing and I was like, oh, there's no trigger here because it's just a pump squirt. So I have this old gun here and I thought this thing is super cool, but I might just save that for another day because I like this a whole lot. So I ran to Walmart and I found this on clearance for $3.50, and that trigger is perfect. So I'll go ahead and take this thing all apart, and then I'm gonna save the rest of the components, but this trigger here, and it's a nice size trigger, so that'll be perfect. And I'm a guy, so you gotta play with the innards of this thing and see how it does, and it makes cool noises, so. All right, back to work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and snip off these parts of the trigger, and I need to drill some kind of hole here. So what I did was I just took my Dremel and then I took my X-Acto blade and I cleaned up afterwards, trimming off the rest of these parts. Now I'll find out that I did like a fit, but it wasn't flush to the top there, so I thought, I don't love that. So I went ahead and cut a little groove in the top, and then when I pop this thing back in, it actually fits really nice and is really cool. So I did glue that into place, but yeah, I love that. That's great. Now it looks like a true blaster. All right, so I think it's time to go prime this thing. I'm just using a auto primer, Rust-Oleum, and it's a fill and scratch, so it really does a great job. Now for the barrel, I've got this little metal component. I've got this little hose bib. Again, one of my viewers sent me these goodies. And I like the construction of that, but I feel like that's a little too long. I need to get rid of that piece. So I think what I'm gonna do is get my little miter saw out and start hacking at this thing, because I don't see any way to just unclip it. So I was hacking away, and it was a lot of work, but I did get it. And I pulled all those little parts out, and it still wouldn't come out, so I had to snip all around the edge, and then that little piece fell out. Now I've got this cool little green piece with that ribbing on it. I think it's kind of cool. It's like something you would see on a blaster. So I did sand that down, put a little glue on there. I am scratching the surface here just to give more adhesion area. You can see the little scratches there. So hopefully the glue sticks really nice to that and I don't have any issues. And there it is. I like that. It's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to use these two spray paints. One is a lighter silver and then one is a darker gunmetal. And I'm thinking of like a two-tone, maybe three-tone, somewhere in there. So there the blaster is, all painted in that dark oiled bronze and then the silver. And right off the bat, I'm like, this is really cool. I really like that. Now the silver's a little bright, so we'll probably knock that down a little bit later. And I'm thinking I might use this copper color here. It wasn't mixed up yet, so it didn't look like copper, and I thought I'm just gonna like gently dry brush this on there. So I just barely put some on, dry brushed it, but it was a little too weak. I ended up literally just painting everything on. And so I'm going to kind of look at all these different little textures. I really like that. So I think I'm going to kind of work this into these certain components here. And when you're designing and building your own piece, really it's kind of just gut feeling. I mean, those pieces could have been yellow. They could have been green. I just went with the copper. I thought it was kind of cool. So again, there's really no rhyme or reason. It's kind of, as you're building, just go with your gut. I love to use this Vallejo wash and just lather the whole thing. If you don't have a Vallejo wash, you can use the black liquid kiwi shoe polish. It works awesome. I've got some videos where I've done some things with that, but look at the difference between those two. That's really cool. Now dropping this on, you can see I've done some chipping weathering, and I'm kind of looking at this, and it's starting to come together. I'm going to go ahead and paint the trigger out silver. Again, I'm just looking at it and thinking, I like this silver. I like this bronze. I think I'm going to do some chipping here, some chipping there. So again, don't overthink it. Just kind of enjoy the process and put the paint down. If you mess up, you can just paint right over it. I am being careful. Like when you're painting, especially if you're newer at this, slow down and take your time so it looks as clean and as crisp as possible. I really I hate to see people do really cool builds, but then it's just sloppy paint. So slow down, take your time. Now I'm just kind of looking over where I've painted and how things are coming along. I like the copper here. I think I'm going to extend it through there and up into here. This part's looking pretty nice. Maybe on the grip, I'll add a little additional copper there. And again, it's just kind of looking at the build and thinking, what would these components be? And how does it all tie together? I like the silver on this little thing here. It looks like a clip of some sort. And again, I'm just taking my time, slowing down, painting. Now, a recommendation I do have is I am super cheap. And especially if you're new at this, you probably don't have a lot of nice model paints and stuff, but I would say invest in some model paints like Vallejo or Citadel, because if you just use like the Hobby Lobby or Michael's craft paints that are 99 cents, they're pretty cheap paints and they don't typically lay down that nice, and it'll make your life kind of miserable. So my recommendation is go ahead and invest in a little bit more expensive paints and it'll just make your life a little bit easier. So yeah, just slow and steady. Yeah, so here I'm looking at this thinking, maybe a wash over the whole thing would help tone this all down. So went ahead and just got some more of that Vallejo game wash, and I'm just kind of covering the whole thing. Now that silver chipping is still showing through on that copper, and I don't, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't love it. I don't love it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some black paint and paint over the top of that. Now the black will look like still some chipping and weathering, but it's just a deeper tone. And as I did this and I'm kind of stepping back and looking at the whole thing, it still gives dimension, but I think it makes a little bit more sense. And I'm going to leave the silver chipping on all of the black edges. So unfortunately, I had done a ton of work with doing all the chipping, but I think that looks way better in the end and worth the time. I'm really liking how this is turning out. All right, so I've got that whole side done. So now I get to repeat the entire process on the other side. And after I've done that, it is time to assemble this thing and put it all together. And then, yeah, we'll call this one done.
Okay, I did just a few additional modifications, but yeah, in the end here, just with like 2 little mods and then a paint job, I hope this is an encouragement to you just to get off your duff and quit saying, oh, I can't do it. Go buy a Nerf gun at Walmart for $5. Go to the Dollar Tree and find a little gun, get some spray paint and spray paint the thing. Then get crazy and be like, I'm going to do a little bit of weathering on it. Try some weathering. Get some good quality model paints. Maybe acrylic is kind of what I like to use because it's easy to clean up. And do a little bit of additional touches here and there. And I think you'll be surprised, like, hey, it's actually not that hard. And you can get something super cool. So yeah, you know, I started out a little bit in the dumps, but I think sometimes doing something for other people and being like, hey, I think I could probably encourage somebody to make something really cool, it kind of recharges my batteries. So go do it. Go make something awesome. And as always, pew pew! It's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.